Right, we are here looking at the end of May because we're at the start of June and you want to know exactly what's going on in the Halifax market, whether you're moving here, whether you're selling up here and moving to a different province, or selling up and staying here. We've got all the information, so definitely hit the like and subscribe button so that you get all of the updates and all of the notifications so you stay in the know. So when we look at the average price that we had here in Halifax for the month of May, we came in at $657,000. Now remember from last month, there was a little bit of a caveat from last month because of that crazy $11 million listing that actually got sold. So when we look at the month compared to April, we are down 2.3% because that was at $673,000. Now we're at $657,000. But also when we look at May last year, we're actually down 1.3% on that. And the interesting thing is when you look at the whole of like 12 months that we've got, you can see that we are well above 600 for the whole of those months that we're actually looking at. And that's kind of one of the big factors that we're looking at right now is the affordability of properties for sale inside of HRM. It's like, you're lucky if you can kind of get into the low 400s and actually get something that doesn't need renovations and fixing up and basically a lot of sweat equity. Now, that's not saying those properties aren't around. They certainly are. But you've got to be able to put some sweat equity into them because, with the average of 657, staying, for the whole year so far, staying above the 600s, that's definitely a big factor. Also, one of the things we do like to give you a little bit of a knowledge on is that median price, because the median is meant to take out the extremities. Now, the median, that came in at $607,000, but it's still over six. So again, that affordability question still comes into play when you're looking at Halifax properties right now. We did have quite a lot of properties sold this month because we're looking in May at 461 properties sold. Last month that was 355, so we're up 30% on last month. And then we're also, more or less there or thereabouts in terms of how many we sold in May last year, 2025. And that we're only like 35 sales short, roughly 7%. So not a huge difference when we actually look at May this year compared to May last year, because this is the time that we certainly should start seeing a lot more properties sold. So yes, 461 being up 30% on last month, that's definitely the direction that we'll be going really for the rest of kind of June. It'll tail off a little bit in July and August, and then we'll ramp back up again in September, October, and November, and then tail off again as we obviously get into the colder months. But right now, let's enjoy the sunshine and the heat that we should be getting soon. Now, the months of inventory, we actually came down from last month to only 2.4 months of inventory. Last month, it was 2.8. And last year, it was only 1.9. So we're up on last year. We're doing better than last month. But the interesting thing here is when you look at 2.4 months, and yes, we did sell an extra 30% in properties, but we look at the actual new listings that were brought to the market, and that was actually down on April. And then also the number of active listings this month, that's actually only slightly up on last month. So that gives you an explanation as to how we got from like the 2.8 of last month to the 2.4 of this month. And it's literally down to the fact that, yes, we did sell 30% more than last month, but we didn't list any more properties. And let's include expireds and withdrawals and cancellations in there as well. They would have come off that number. So that explains why we're kind of down in the inventory. But again, 2.4 months sits us firmly and squarely in a seller's market, but doesn't always feel that way. Like, it does feel that you can actually get some bargains out there, and certainly there is more choice with roughly 1,100 properties for sale right now. That's absolutely giving you the volume and the activity and the choice, so you can go out there and actually be not necessarily rushed into properties. Now, we're still seeing as well some properties, and there's one that I'm seeing tomorrow in Lower Sackville, where they are literally doing all offers open until a certain day, a certain time. But also that property is priced ridiculously low for the condition. Bearing in mind it's only the photographs. So the condition that we've seen on the photographs and the location, and it's in Lower Sackville, and it's priced in the low 300s, which doesn't make any sense. So there's a game that realtor, that agent is actually playing for the seller to try and obviously get a lot of multiple offers and drive the price potentially way above where it actually would have been sold if it had just been priced appropriately for the market. Looking at that active homes for sale, we are at 1,102 homes for sale, which is like the highest it's been for quite some time. Last month, it was just over 1,000, so we are up 10% on that, and we are up 17% on the number from last year. So that's why we're saying there's more choice, there's more properties that are actually available. The thing is, they're actually starting to sell quite nicely as well, even though our average price is in the kind of mid-sixes right now. Going into that number of active homes that were put on the market this month, that number was 682. Last month, it was 724. So we are down 6% with the number of new homes that we brought onto the market in the month of May. Compared to last year, we're also down on that one as well, down 9% on that number. So we didn't really bring that many properties to the market, but it certainly felt like in April, there was a big chunk of properties that were actually listed to the market. And then you always have to be cautious about like how many were builder new construction coming to the market that, not really available to actually move in within the next 30 to 60 days, which is typical for most homes. Because when the builder brings them to the market, those can be just facsimile designs. There isn't even a hole in the ground and they haven't started the construction. So that's one thing you always have to be a little bit more cautious of when you look at that. But when we looked at the new builds this month, and we'll go into this in one particular market, there wasn't a ton of new construction that was actually listed this month. But the ones in a certain area that we're going to look at later in Beachville, well, every single one that was listed went sold in the month as well, like one day on the market. 11 homes actually sold for that. But we'll touch on that one when we touch into the markets. Looking at the sale to list price ratio, we are at 98.8%. So yes, there's some discounts going on there, roughly 1.2% off the actual asking price. But again, that's still pretty good. There is definitely some, you're going with an offer of whatever the number is, $7, $10, $15, $20,000 under asking price, and then the negotiations with the seller actually start. Now, let's not forget, there is also a big price drop going on from the listing to get to the price that is the listing that then gets the offer. Now, that number was $40,000 this month. That was on average across all the properties that did price drops. That's how much the price drops were to then be able to attract an offer that still was at 98.8% sale price compared to the list price. So you can see there's still some good discounts going on, and there's still some price drops that are happening in pretty large numbers. Like $40,000 on average is a good number. And yes, the higher the prices that are listed, the bigger those price drops can actually be. So, there's a little bit of understanding with that as well. Average days on market actually came down as well, 30 days on market, and that's been trending down. So look at the previous months, like February was 46, March was 46, April 37, May is actually 30. Now we're definitely up from last year. Last year was 25 days on market, so we're kind of up 5 days on that, but down 7 days on last month. Shows that some of these properties are moving a little bit quicker once they're actually listed for sale. New construction, again, those properties in Beachville, there was 11 of those, so I wouldn't say that influenced the number hugely. But people are taking action, because if the days on market are coming down and the average price is kind of holding steady, that shows that people are starting to rationalize the price again, and they're getting out there and actually starting to buy the properties. So don't sit on the fence if that's you and you're in that situation and you're keeping your fingers crossed and you're hoping that prices are going to come down substantially. Well, yes, they've come down a little bit, but not that much. If you look at March, we're only $2,000 down on the average that was there in March. Moving on to the sale to new listing ratio, that is at 68% this month. It was only at 49% last month. So didn't change too much from last year's number, but certainly changed from last month's number. And again, that's primarily down to the fact that we sold more, but we put new listings on the market less. So hence that percentage goes up. And the idea is here that you always want to try and keep it in that kind of like high 60s to 70s number, because that shows, again, from a seller's point of view, that we're actually eating into the inventory. The months of inventory, as we know, because it's at 2.4, actually are coming down. So again, that sales to new listing ratio, once it starts getting into the 60s and 70s, even into the 80s, that's going to give you an idea that people aren't listing as many houses, but the buying side, the number of properties that are actually getting sold, is going up. Therefore, number of months of inventory is going to come down at the same time. Less choice going on for you as a buyer. Moving on to the last section here, where we always cover the top 3 markets. Sometimes it's 4, but this time it's only 3, to give you an idea as to what in particular is the areas that people are looking at. Now, this month, the number 1 market by quite a few sales, like this was 60 sales in the month, was actually in Timbley, Prospect, St. Margaret's Bay. Now, that also covers Upper Tantallon. It also covers Beachville. So that's the area that was number 1. Their average price from a sale point of view there was $656,000. List was $660,000. So like, 99.3% sale to list price. They had to do, for those who did it, $21,500 price drop to actually get the offers. Now that was 19 days on market, pretty quick. 60 sales, which we just covered. There's 142 that are active for sale. That gives them 2.4 months of inventory. Now we did want to mention in this area, there's a new subdivision in Beachville called Lovett Lake. And that's the one that they listed 11 properties in that new subdivision, and all of them went sold within the first 2 to 3 days, because it was like the next phase of that build out, pretty much getting towards the end of that phase. But it does seem to be incredibly popular, likely because it's only like 5 minutes to Bayers Lake, 10 minutes to get into the top of downtown Halifax Peninsula. So from a centrality point of view, very close. They're also new construction. Now, the average price there, you are hitting $680,000 to $720,000. So these aren't cheap new construction, but certainly popular. Getting towards the point now, though, where that phase is almost done. And again, some of the ones that they're actually listing now, a little bit hesitant on what the view from the backyard and also the back of the property is, because you're kind of looking at the back of Bayers Lake. So these aren't the ones that are probably the prime ones that would have actually been snapped up right at the very beginning of this Lovett Lake development. Number 2, we are at East Hants, Colchester West, Enfield, Elmsdale, Lance. They had an average sale price of just under $500,000, list price of $504,000, giving them 99.2%, but a fairly chunky $34,000 average price drop up there to get those properties sold. 46 days on market, 37 sales, 94 homes for sale, and 2.5 months of inventory. So that covers off number 2. And again, like our top 3 don't change too much. Moving into number 3, this time is Bedford. Sometimes it's lower Sackville, but we're in Bedford this time. Average sale price, $796,500. $803,000 average list price, with a $24,000 average price drop to get to getting an offer, just on the ones that actually did to have to do a price drop. So that's not actually too much. Coming in there at a 99.2% sale to list price, with 20 days on market, 36 sales, 84 homes for sale, and 2.3 months of inventory. So when you look at all 3 of those top 3 markets, 2.3 months, 2.4 months, 2.5 months, that's kind of the average for the whole of HRM right now. So those 3 markets are certainly driving a lot of what's going on in the marketplace right now. So that's everything we've covered off for the month of May. If you have any questions, drop a comment down below and let me know your thoughts so we can give you the information that you're searching for. If there's a specific neighborhood that you want to get into, we can easily send you the stats on that as well. But in the meantime, stay tuned for the next ones coming up.